Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
I'm Egbert, the owner of this station. Check out my website at egbert.com. That's E-G-G-B-U-R-T, egbert.com. Now it's back to Brad and John. Check out their website at bjshow.co. The BJ Show? Come on, guys. Anyway, here's B and J.
John, you didn't watch the debates the other night, did you?
Correct, I did not.
Okay. What I find interesting is all the spin that's going on. And quite honestly, I saw part of it. I didn't see all of it. Quite honestly, I got after about the first half an hour, I got depressed. You're going to say, well, because Trump wasn't doing well. No, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is bogus. The way the questions are being read and if you know the whole story, the fact checking, I think that is absolutely positively reprehensible that the moderators can fact check. Once again, if they said something like that, just let it go, and let the press pick up on that. The press is any good. Last night, Donald Trump in his debate said this, but actually that's not true. Okay, that's fine. Great. Do it, but don't. And the crazy thing about it is some of the things that Trump got fact checked on, when they called him out on it, like for example, the eating cats thing. David Muir says, well, we talked to the city manager at Springfield, Ohio, and there's been no reports of cats being eaten. But yet there's all these people on the internet saying, my cat got eaten by the Haitians down the street. Okay. Once again, I've said the story. I learned my lesson as a police dispatcher. There are municipalities that all sorts of nasty crap happens in them, and you'll never find out about it because they keep it private. They take the police report and the police report gets lost, or they cleanse the police report. Once again, been there, done that. I was the guy typing reports back in the day at night, and when I come in for my next shift, the same report was in my bin to be retyped, which all these redactions on it because of the fact that the chief of police didn't want anybody to know that this happened, and the captain didn't want to know anybody this happened, that kind of stuff. Okay, having said that, I looked this morning, and there's more stories about, well, Trump, okay. And Trump is now saying, well, I won the debate, and right after the debate was over, the Harris team came out and said, we won a second debate. And now Trump's going like, well, I won. You know what? I think the debate was a farce. I just do. I think they both sucked. And quite honestly, I think Trump did himself a tremendous disfavor because there were so many rainbows that were pitched, they're thrown up to him that he could have whacked it out of the park. I heard somebody the other day say that Trump's, his superpower is short little retorts. And they had these little sound bites. If you remember the thing when he was debating Hillary Clinton and she said something and his response was, well, that's because you'd be in jail. Yeah,
he said we'd lock you up. We'd have you locked up.
Right. And the most famous was recently, I have no idea what he just said, and I don't think he knows what he said, which was from the infamous
the Biden debate.
Right. And once again, he said these short little things, and you know what? And if I were Trump, I would say, and once again, they give you 2 minutes. And I would have said, me, Trump, if she would have said something, I would have said, you know what? It's all fake news, all fake lies. And matter of fact, I've got 2 minutes. I'm going to give her 1:50 to tell some more lies. Go ahead, Kamala, tell some more lies. Once again, he could have totally turned that around. Okay, the WCBW story. Back in the day when I ran my traffic network, the way I did my traffic network, we gave our traffic reports to the radio stations in return for commercials. And we would take those commercials and put them into a big package, and we sell a package that an advertiser could buy, and they could be on. At my peak, I had almost every radio station in St. Louis except for KMOX and whatever it was, Clue 103, whatever their FM station was at the time. And one station we had was WCBW, which was down in Columbia, Illinois. interestingly enough, a contemporary Christian station, which was owned by Jewish guys, which is sort of interesting. And it ran as a commercial radio station, not as a non-commercial station. And who was one of the people on the air there? Sandy Brown, who is now the president of Gateway Creative Broadcasting, which runs 99.1. And I just spoke to Sandy about 2 weeks ago. Nicest person in the world. You'll never meet a nicer person than Sandy. Okay, so, but one time I got in trouble with the general manager of WCBW, a lady by the name of Linda Tiernan, still remember her name. And she called me up one day and she said, a listener, actually she had 3 listeners call her and complain that there was an illegal commercial on her radio station. And the illegal commercial was one of my commercials. It happened to be a commercial for a builder. Matter of fact, I can still remember who the builder was, Hardesty Homes. I think the guy's name was Brent Hardesty. And it was advertising. God, I can remember this stuff. This is weird. I can't remember where I parked my car in a parking lot. But Brent Hardesty, and it was advertising Chapter 1, which at the time was a new condo complex that was being built on Highway 94 north of 40 in Weldon Spring. Okay? And she says to me, I can't run this commercial you presented to me because our listeners have pointed out, and they're correct, it's an illegal commercial. And I go, what commercial are you talking about? And she says, it's the one for Chapter 1 Homes, Hardesty Homes. And I go, well, how's that an illegal commercial? Well, they give a monthly payment, and that violates Regulation Z. I'm thinking to myself, okay, Regulation Z. Am I being punked? What in the world is Regulation Z? And I said, Linda, let me check into it. This was placed by an advertising agency that specialized, I still remember the guy's name, Al Camello. How's that for crazy? Al's probably been dead for 20 years now because Al was, back in the day, wasn't a young man. So I call up Al and I tell him the story and Al just laughs. He says, I go, well, what is Regulation Z? Do you by any chance know what Regulation Z is, John?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay, Regulation Z is something you see the results of on a regular basis, and you don't even realize what it is. Regulation Z is, I think it's the FTC Regulation Z, is that if you give a monthly payment, you have to give all the other things. You have to give APY, APR, blah, 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 blah. And that's why when you see on TV an ad for a car dealer, and the guy says, it's only $3.99 a month for 60 months, there's this huge disclaimer that appears on the bottom of the screen which says, price, full prices, blah, 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 blah. Monthly payments is 60, your APR is APY, blah, 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 blah. That's Regulation Z. So I say to Al, I go, well, what's the deal in this? He says, you know what? It's technically they're correct, and the fact that it does violate Regulation Z. He says, but nobody does that. He says, because if we did a 60-second commercial and we adhered to the letter of the law, the commercial would be 5 seconds long and the disclaimer would be 55 seconds. And he says, you know what? If you just want to take that station off, that ad off the station, no problem. So I said, fine. So I call her back and I go, Linda, you're right. I talked with Al, and it does violate Regulation Z. And I know your listeners. And she said to me, she says, Brad, I want you to understand, I'm a good Christian woman. I don't break any laws. I don't break any laws. And she's like beating me up. I will not.
Oh, here we go. I know this story. Yeah.
She's like, I don't break any laws. Okay, fine, Linda, fine. Linda, no, you give me a problem. I say, yes, you drew it to my attention. We fixed it. You don't have to run the commercial. Anytime we present a commercial to you that you have the slightest little bit of problem with, call me, I'll get you a new commercial. Okay, so about 6 months later, I think you have heard this story, haven't you? About 6 months later.
But there's people who haven't heard it. Go ahead. And you go out to lunch with her, and then you guys are going to a chamber meeting after, and what happens?
Oh, no. This is not that story. This is a different story.
Oh, this is a different one.
This is a different story, okay? So everything goes by and things are fine. So the interesting thing was, I am a license plate fanatic. I love personalized plates. And my all-time favorite, I'm going to, get sidetracked here for a minute. My all-time favorite personalized license plate was a plate I saw at the airport. I was parked behind it at the East Terminal when it was the East Terminal. The guy was picking up someone, and I was picking up someone. And it was, I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was on a SUV, a Ford SUV, and it was a Texas Purple Heart plate. So in other words, this guy was a wounded veteran, and the Purple Heart plate said, ouch. And I thought to myself, what a great plate. Purple Heart, ouch. Okay. So I remember going through the parking lot And when I park in downtown Columbia, and this is Columbia, Illinois, where the radio station was, a little tiny building on Main Street in Columbia, Illinois, I remember seeing the license plate in the parking lot, WCBW-GM. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, that must be Linda Tiernan's license plate because she's the general manager, WCBW-GM. It's on a little Volkswagen Jetta, okay? So one morning, I'm out driving traffic. One of my guys calls in sick, and we actually had cars that drove around the highways and reported traffic conditions and stuff like that. And I'm going north on 55, and I'm doing the speed limit because, like most of the time I do, either speed limit, Shelley makes fun of me. I don't drive 40 miles an hour. I do the speed limit usually +5. I'm driving along, and this car passes me at probably 100 miles an hour. I mean, just so like that. And as I went by me, I caught the plate, and it was WCBW-GM. And I'm going, what the hell was that? I'm going like, could that have been Linda Tiernan? I'm going like, no way that could have been. Somebody must have stole her car. So the next day, I called her up, and I go, Linda, can I have a little chat with you about something? And she says, yeah. I said, remember when you beat me up on this deal we had the problem with Regulation Z? Oh, yeah. I said, you told me that you don't violate any laws, that you don't, and I told her, I said, I find that hard to believe because there's so many crazy laws that I say nobody can go through their life unless they wrap themselves in cotton and don't go outside their house. Nobody can go through life without violating at least 3 or 4 laws in a day, and that kind of a deal. She goes, well, yes, that's me. I don't violate any laws. And I said, the other morning I was driving traffic, and I saw this car in your parking lot that had the license plate at WCBW-GM, and that car passed me on the highway probably doing at least 100 miles an hour. I go, that couldn't have been you, was it? And there's this long pause, and she says, that was me. And I said, what in the world were you doing at like 8 o'clock in the morning doing 100 miles an hour and 55? You ready for this, John? She says, ready. I was speeding because I was late for the mayor's prayer breakfast, and I was trying to make up time. So I'm thinking to myself.
And she knows that the Lord would keep her safe right. If she was speeding on the way to a prayer breakfast.
Because she's got to get to the prayer breakfast. There's no way she's going to have an accident or anything like that. And if she get pulled over by the police, she could just say, well, I'm the general manager of WCBW, and I'm on the way to the mayor's prayer breakfast. And the cop would have said, oh, well, let me give you an escort. Lights and siren, here we go, right?
Now, you had a similar thing. We have time for this story. You had a similar event with a woman that told you that she doesn't
Same deal.
break the law. And
right.
then what happened there?
Well, we ate lunch together, and she's giving me this spiel about how she never breaks the law and the whole bit. And her and I arrived at this restaurant, and then we had a meeting. We were trying to sell. She was working part-time doing some sales work for me, and she's telling me, I don't break laws. I'm such a good person, blah, 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 blah. So we leave the restaurant. We go to our appointment in 2 separate cars. She's in front of me. First off, she runs a red light. Then she makes a right turn at the next intersection where it says no right turn on red. She makes a right turn on red. She goes down I can tell you exactly where it was. It was on West Clay in St. Charles. We're going from Cave Springs down to Zumble, and the speed limit there is like 40. She was doing at least 60. And then she turns into the parking lot of the business we're going to, and the sign says no left turn. She makes a left turn into the parking lot. So she gets out of the car, and I say to her, I said, that conversation we had at lunch today? She goes, yeah. I go, remember you told me about how you don't break any laws? Oh, yeah, I don't break any laws. Okay, you ran the red light back there at Cave Springs. You made a right turn on red on the West Clay. You did 20 miles an hour over the limit on West Clay, and you made a left turn where it says no left turn. Well, but that's different. Those are just traffic laws. Okay. They're laws, aren't they? Well, but it's not like robbing or stealing or anything like that. Okay, fine. So we pick and choose our laws. We, and to the point where, doesn't that sound like what happens nowadays where, and not to bring Trump into this, but, Trump gets charged with all these things that who's ever been prosecuted with these? Nobody. You know what I mean? The crazy things.
Yeah, it's lawfare, Brad. It's lawfare.
Right. He gets convicted of having, of essentially sexually molesting a woman who can't remember what year it happened, nor can she remember what store it happened in, nor she can remember any of the things, but she just knows she got, and the jurors say, yeah, right. We agree with her, even though she can't remember what planet she was on. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy stuff. And once again, the laws are enforced differently by who you are. Let's be honest. If
of course they are.
If Tashara Jones, makes a right turn on red in the city, there's no cop in their right mind that's going to pull her over. No way. No way.
But if you're Tyreek Hill, then you should definitely.
But see, we talked about that, and it's interesting. I heard Brian Kilmeade say, and Brian Kilmeade is an ex-sports guy. Brian Kilmeade say there were mistakes made on both sides. I told you the story. It's like my son. Once again, when I saw the video, I thought to myself, oh, okay, Tyreek, dude, don't do what you're doing. You're just asking for trouble. And he got it.
Yep.
He got it. Once again, was the cop a little overbearing? Yeah, right from the get-go. The cop's whapping on his window and the whole bit. You know what? Once again, and they talk about de-escalation. The cop rips him out of his car. Okay. But yet, was Tyreek guilty of I don't know what even the traffic offenses were. Once again, he didn't roll down his window. He rolled down the window finally. Then he rolled his window back up. Once again, the police officer pulls you over. You become the nicest, most polite person in the world. If the police officer says, rub your left eyebrow, you rub your left eyebrow. Get what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
I do. And I mean, there's something to be said against whataboutism. And everybody's like, yeah, but what about the police? It's possible, like you said, Brad, there's police officers that can be a jerk. And then people who get pulled over who are even bigger jerks. Like both, there can be jerks on both sides. We've all dealt with jerk cops before.
Right. I mean, I can tell the classic example of the ticket I got years ago that the cop was just being an outright jerk to me. I mean, to the point where, and to the point where I took it to trial and I won because of the fact that, first off, he didn't show up because he knew he was wrong, and that's the way it works that when you go, if you know what I'm talking about. If the police officer's got to come to the trial and say, yes, Your Honor, I saw him make a left turn when no left turn zone. If they don't show up, you win. And he didn't show up because he knew he wrote me a bogus ticket. It was real short. I got a ticket for not having proof of insurance. When I gave him my proof of insurance, it was the faxed copy of my card, this is back in the day, from my insurance agent because I didn't get one in the mail. So my insurance agent faxed me a copy of my card, which I presented to the police officer, and he told me that was not proper proof of insurance. And now keep in mind, this is after my truck got hit by a guy who admitted he changed 5 lanes of traffic at the last minute and hit my truck, which at the time was 6 months old, practically brand new truck, hit my truck and admitted it was totally his fault. And guess what ticket he got? Nothing. He got not one thing. And to the point where I got a ticket and I had to go to stupid St. Louis County court. And the deal is, the way they do this is like, can we go a little bit longer in this? I'll finish this off.
Yeah, we can.
This is how they dissuade you from fighting anything in St. Louis County. And they do this in other communities as well, too. You show up for the first night and there's 200 people in the room and you're told there's 2 pleas you can make, guilty and not guilty. And if you say not guilty, you have to come back a second time. So most people are going like, screw this. I want to say guilty. I'm paying my fine. I'm out of here. Okay?
Yep.
So I go up in front of the judge. And keep in mind, the judge says, if you plead not guilty in front of me, I don't want to hear an excuse. We'll just assign you a court date. So my turn in front of the judge. After 2 hours, I get in front of the judge. And the judge says, you have a failure to provide proof of insurance. How do you plead? I go, not guilty. And he looks up at me and he goes, how can you plead not guilty to that? I said, Your Honor, you said we can't give explanations. I can give you a real good explanation and do it in 60 seconds. No. You just come back to court. So as I'm being escorted out of the court to talk to the prosecutors, the police officer, who's the bailiff, said to me, okay, you got my interest. How did you get a ticket? How did you claim that you got a ticket for not showing proof of insurance? I had the piece of paper in my pocket. I gave it to him. I go, take a look at that. What is that? He says, it's proof of insurance. I said, not according to officer blah, blah, blah. He wrote me a ticket because it wasn't the official little stupid card. And he goes,
wow.
And he goes, really? I go, yeah. And he says, well, I'm not going to make a comment on that one. So I came back to court 2 months later, and there's only about 20 people there. They call the docket, and the judge says, when we call the docket, stand up so the prosecutors can make note of where you're at in the courtroom. So they call my name, I stand up, prosecutor sees me. Then they go in the recess. Prosecutor makes a beeline right for me. And same thing. Okay, how can you plead not guilty to to proof of insurance? And I showed him, I go, this is exactly what I gave the police officer. And he says, you gave him this? I go, yes. I said, it's got my VIN on it. It's got my insurance company, the whole bit. I said, once again, I didn't get my card in the mail. Nowadays you can put it on your phone, but, I didn't get my card in the mail, and I called my insurance agent, and they faxed me this card. That was what I gave the officer. And he says, this piece of paper you gave to the officer. I go, that very piece of paper. And he says, can I have this? And I go, yes. He says, all charges are dropped, no court costs, nothing. Sorry this happened, and I will leave. But once again, I'm like 3 or 4 hours into my time, which I could have been doing something else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What a jerk that cop was.
Well, once again, and once again, the guy admits, I can tell you exactly what this happened. Him and his wife were coming up. They were appliance dealers. I still remember this, down in southeast Missouri, and there's a big Whirlpool distribution center out in Earth City. And they're coming up, they came on 70, and when he crosses over 270, he realizes at the last minute that, oh my God, the Earth City exit is right there. So and if you remember this back in the day, there was always a line in that second to the right lane going west on 70. Traffic is to stop. I am stopped in traffic on I-70, and all of a sudden the guy says, oh, I got to make it over that exit lane. So he cuts over 5 lanes of traffic, and he almost missed me, but he caught my right rear bumper on the front of his truck, and he totaled his truck. I mean, my truck had a couple $1,000s worth of damage. His truck was totaled. Couldn't even drive it away. They had to have the thing towed off. And he admitted to the cop, officer, I'm not from this area, and I'm coming west on 70, and I didn't realize, the whole bit. And the crazy thing was, cop goes back to his car. I can see him writing a ticket. I think to myself, oh, man, this guy's going to get a ticket. So he comes back out of his car, talks to the people, walks over to me, hands me the ticket. I'm going, I don't believe this. This is bogus as all get out. And I have to tell you, I got so mad, I took the ticket and I threw it on the floor, on the ground, and on the shoulder in I-70, and I jumped on it. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to end up in jail over this one. Cop just looked at me, didn't do a thing. I got in my truck and I left.
Wow. I'd love to don't you wish there was body cam of that back then, Brad?
I lost my cool because of the fact that, once again, what did I do wrong? The answer to that was nothing.
But he probably thought you were sleeping because your license plate was all Z's, right? It was like a series of 7 Z's.
John, he's making fun.
Isn't that how, like, if you pull into a parking lot, it's Brad. You're like, oh, there he is. The license plate is just all Z's.
John's making fun of me because I love sequential license plates. I've had and have several of them, which get me in trouble because, once again, in the last month, I've been pulled over 3 times. It happened again just last week, and nobody believes when I tell the story. But, once again, it happens.
There's a high correlation between people with long serial license plates of sequential license plates and, significant mental illness. So mentally ill that they might even stomp on a traffic ticket.
Well, I'm not proud of that moment, but you know what? It was what it was. Okay, we have to get out of here. We're way past. Armstrong and Getty's next. See you later, John.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?